The threat that I worry the most about vis-a-vis Europe is not Russia, it's not China, it's not any other external actor. And what I worry about is the threat from within, the retreat of Europe from some of its most fundamental values, values shared with the United States of America. And perhaps most concerningly, I look to our very dear friends, the United Kingdom, where the backslide away from conscience rights has placed the basic liberties of religious Britons in particular in the cross.
You don't want them to advertise?
No.
What do you mean?
If somebody's going to try to blackmail me with advertising, blackmail me with money?
British Army veteran Adam Smith Connor was fined for praying near an abortion clinic, despite not blocking anyone or causing a scene. Authorities in the UK have made it clear that even if someone is caught praying inside their home, they could face serious consequences. This highlights the increasing crackdown on private prayer in the UK.
I think it's true in Europe. They're losing their wonderful right of freedom of speech. I see it.
Vice President Vance's speech to the conference has ruffled quite a few feathers in Europe.
What did he say to ruffle them? I don't know.
He was talking about the freedom of speech and migration in Europe. Do you believe that European leaders have a fundamentally different view of the world than this administration?
Well, I heard his speech, and I tell you, you're talking about JD's speech, right?
Yes, sir.
I heard his speech, and he talked about freedom of speech, and I think it's true.
Elon Musk is questioning the UK government's actions towards a British Army veteran who was fined for praying in silence. Musk, who once supported free speech, is now questioning the UK's stance on basic rights. He has taken to Twitter to criticize the UK government for a betrayal of democracy and believes that the UK should stand for more than just personal freedoms. Musk is not staying silent when something doesn't align with him, and he is not just upset, but furious about the situation. The U.S. is closely monitoring this situation.
A little over 2 years ago, the British government charged Adam Smith Connor, a 51-year-old physiotherapist and an Army veteran, with the heinous crime of standing 50 meters from an abortion clinic and silently praying for 3 minutes. Not obstructing anyone, not interacting with anyone, just silently praying on his own. And after British law enforcement spotted him and demanded to know what he was praying for, Adam replied simply, it was on behalf of the unborn son he and his former girlfriend had aborted years before. Now, the officers were not moved. Adam was found guilty of breaking the government's new buffer zones law, which criminalizes silent prayer and other actions that could influence a person's decision within 200 meters of an abortion facility.
A post by Musk on X sparked a massive online movement demanding free speech protections in the UK. Users shared their own stories of censorship restrictions and fines over speech, with some posting clips of police questioning citizens for their beliefs. British authorities also threaten people over wrong. The UK government is frustrated that one of the world's most influential voices is putting them in the spotlight. Musk is not just tweeting, he is taking action where it hurts businesses. He hinted that Tesla's future in the UK might not be as certain as before, as the country continues to crack down on freedoms that made Western democracies great. The real question now is whether Britain cares about free speech, and whether the UK government will double down on it or realize the consequences of pushing away figures like Musk.
Just upset. He's furious.
Elon called me. He said, they're trying to drive us apart. I said, absolutely. They said, we have breaking news. Donald Trump has ceded control of the presidency to Elon Musk. President Musk will be attending a cabinet meeting tonight at 8 o'clock. And I say,
UK Prime Minister Kier Starmer has dismissed criticism from Elon Musk, stating that Musk won't dictate to him directly. Starmer believes Musk is an outsider and that Britain's laws aren't up for debate. However, his response to Musk is part of a larger political power struggle, as he is also facing tensions with Donald Trump. Trade talks between the UK and the US have hit a rough patch, with Trump pushing for tariffs that Starmer strongly opposes. This is putting pressure on their diplomatic relationship, and Musk's close ties to Trump only complicate matters further.
This last October, just a few months ago, the Scottish government began distributing letters to citizens whose houses lay within so-called safe access zones, warning them that even private prayer within their own homes may amount to breaking the law. Naturally, the government urged readers to report any fellow citizens suspected guilty of thought crime. In Britain and across Europe, free speech, I fear, is in retreat.
Starmer is navigating a tight RPP to maintain a positive relationship with the European Union after Brexit, despite facing pushback from the US and figures like Musk. He must balance his stance towards Europe, risking a potential conflict with the US or try to reconcile with Trump while maintaining EU support. Musk's criticism only exacerbates the situation, and while Starmer is holding his ground, ignoring Musk and millions who support free speech could potentially cost him politically.
Do you have any reaction, Prime Minister, to a post by Elon Musk this morning suggesting that America should liberate Britain from a tyrannical government?
In relation to that, I don't really have any comment on the particular comment that was made this morning by Musk. Thank you.
Kama, who has been in conflict with Donald Trump over trade tariffs and foreign policy, has now requested a meeting with Dharma, hoping to repair his strained relationship. This move is concerning as Kama recently dismissed Elon Musk's concerns about free speech in the UK, despite Musk's close ties to Trump and his support for free speech regulation and tech's role in democracy. Kama's desire to talk to Trump while treating Musk as a non-existent figure raises questions about his relationship with the US.
An overcrowding situation in the UK, so that quite literally releasing and putting people in jail for Facebook posts. That's an actual thing happening in Britain.
That is so wild.
Like you're like,
it's so wild that people can't see
that. Is going on?
And what's insane to me
Make
is
oil fiction again.
Yeah. But it's all being encouraged by the left.
Starmer, a billionaire, is alienating influential figures connected to Trump, causing him to alienate some of the most influential figures. Musk, a powerful global voice, has shaped public perception, policy debates, and business decisions. Ignoring Musk doesn't make the issue disappear. It makes Starmer look weak and unwilling to face critics when they challenge his policies. The question is whether Starmer can mending ties with the US while shutting out Musk, as contradictions are piling up and he may have to answer for them. His actions speak louder than his words.
JD Vance, you have said, John, in this interview, shouldn't come to Europe to then criticise us. I mean, we have, and various political leaders have very strong views. In fact, Labour had a number, as other parties did, of course, as well, sent people to campaign in United States elections. I'm not saying they shouldn't do that. I'm not saying that shouldn't do that. They shouldn't do that necessarily. What I'm saying is that just because you don't live somewhere, you do have the right to have an opinion on it. And surely JD Vance has the right to make his views clear, however he wants to do, as the number 2 person in the United States.
Look, JD Vance has criticized the UK's arrest of people for silent prayer, highlighting the country's shift in personal freedoms. Vance is putting pressure on former President Arma to defend authoritarian policies, and now Donald Trump has stepped in to support Vance's criticism. Trump argues that free speech is a fundamental right, and the UK's current stance on personal freedoms is not just about one controversial arrest, but a larger issue affecting the UK's overall freedom of expression. Vance's criticism highlights the US's growing concern for the UK's stance on personal freedoms.
And there are laws, and those laws should be enforced. And it's extraordinary to me that JD Vance wants to come to Europe and start lecturing the UK on which laws we should and should not have and which laws we should apply. And I think it's just deeply, deeply insulting. I mean, the whole speech was monstrous, I think.
Monstrous? You don't think he has a point at all in regard to the erosion of free speech and liberty in this country?
No, he does not have a point at all.
So what does Starmer do now? The pressure is mounting. He can ignore Musk.
The pressure on the UK is mounting, and the UK's response could be to ignore Musk or dismiss Vance. But Trump's stance on UK's free speech policies could strain relations. With trade talks already fragile, Starmer must decide whether to soften his stance or risk further backlash. The outcome will send a message to other nations that value free speech, determining whether Britain remains a free country or if it is heading in a direction with few expected personal freedoms.
Relationship between the UK and the US and the EU I've always been clear that both are important to us. Now, that for me isn't new. I think that's always been the case and will be the case for many, many years to come. That's why in my discussions with President Trump, we've touched on issues of trade and on issues of security, both really important in relation to the trade that we already do.
Kier Starmer is at a crossroads as global pressure mounts on the UK's stance on free speech. The public is not staying quiet, and protests are growing. The debate is far from over internationally, and the UK is under scrutiny. It could become a warning, sign for modern censorship, or prove democracy still stands. The UK is under the microscope to decide.